Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, just people doing really cool things in their space, find out a little bit about what they're doing, and see if there are some of those things that we can translate into our own lives as well. So we talk to lots of athletes, CEOs, entrepreneurs, again, just people doing really interesting things that we can find out a bit about their journey and see if we can translate some of those again into what we do. Just before we jump into that, I know I've got a really interesting one today, and we're going to be talking about the fastest growing sport out there and somebody who's involved in that. But just before we do, if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we're sponsored by Thirdsy. And if you are looking for natural products that help athletes and high performers, so you might be somebody who's maybe not a high level athlete, but also just want to be able to get the best out of themselves. They have products that really focus on getting your best recovery and rest from physical and mental stress. And so they have a PM recovery collagen that's melatonin free, it's sedative free. It's just a powder that you can use before you go to sleep and helps with not only kind of rest, but also joint and muscle repair as well. So check it out just to see if it's something that's interests you. If you want to go to thirdsy.com, you can do that, or go directly into our Instagram profile, and you can use a code BIBM20 and you get 20% off as well. So check that out and see if it's something that you'd be interested in. So really lucky to have Shelby Bates with us today. She's made a name very quickly in the world of pickleball, which a lot of people know has skyrocketed in the last little while. And she only started competing, I think, from what I understand, in 2022, so not that long ago. And within 6 months, you decided to kind of go pro. So she also, though, before that, played tennis and did that at Coastal Carolina University, and now continues, from what I understand as well, to still do some coaching in tennis and pickleball as well, but also plays for MLP Australia's Western Vipers, I think, too. So that's another big piece that hopefully we can touch on a bit. So first of all, thanks for spending some time with us, Shelby. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So, we talked about how your journey into pickleball is pretty recent, but a lot of players it is, in the last little while. But talk to us a little bit about your journey to getting there, because obviously tennis was a big part of your life, and just tell us how you progressed into, professional pickleball.
Yeah. Well, so I'm originally from New York. I grew up there playing junior tennis. From junior tennis, I played at Division I, Coastal Carolina University in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I've been teaching tennis for the past 15 years. I moved down to South Florida in 2017, and I've been teaching here ever since. My country club that I used to work at, Mirasol Country Club, brought in pickleball at about 2021 and was like looking for a pro, and they wanted somebody involved in pickleball. It was after COVID. Pickleball was, the next best thing.
Yeah.
And so I basically started teaching pickleball there. Started playing. We had our pros brought in an exhibit. Oh my gosh. Our club brought in pros for an exhibition. They actually brought in Ben Johns, Andre Deescu, J.W. Johnson, and Rob Nunnery at the time.
Yep.
And Ben, this is a classic story. I love to tell this to everybody. Ben Johns basically looked at me and was like, "You're trash at pickleball." I was like, "Okay, well, I can play tennis, but I'm going to give this thing a go because nobody tells me that I'm trash at anything." And I basically, for the next like 3 months, didn't put a paddle down. I played every single day. And 6 months later, I turned pro. And then a year after that, so last year in March of 2023, I quit my full-time job and I went full-time professional pickleball.
Mhm.
And here we are. It's been great ever since.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a great story about, and for those people who don't know kind of Ben John, well, he was on our podcast. So if you don't know him, you can go back and actually listen to the episode with him. But he is seen as kind of the right now anyway, the top kind of number one player from the men's side in pickleball. So that probably could have been a either. I guess it's what fired you up to do that.
For
That's
sure.
interesting. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, you know. What has been, and because that is one thing that a lot of people assume that if you play tennis, that it's a quick and easy transition. It's funny, I did ask Ben the same question. Is just what's the difference, and is it something? And he explained it as you can pick up very quickly, probably moving from tennis to pickleball, but then it's that whether you can do the more finer kind of things of pickleball to be able to get to that next level. And what's your experience from that end, and how different it might be, or similar?
Obviously, it's very easy to transfer over because pickleball is very easy to learn, but it's harder to master. So the hand-eye coordination is obviously there from tennis, the swing, setting your feet, setting your body, but there are nuances in pickleball that do not translate over from tennis. And, for me, I've been playing tennis 20, 30 years of my life. So to break some of those habits from tennis and translate them into the pickleball swings or the from the dink or the volleys or being able to be in transition is super different from tennis. And it's hard to break a habit that I've been taught for the past 30 years of my life. But I think that's the coolest thing about this sport is that because it's so easy to learn, anybody can get into it. And then for me, it was able to get those competitive juices flowing again, which is why I really wanted to dial it in and be able to compete at this sport at such a high level.
Yeah, yeah, which you've done very quickly. I mean, you were also last season. You've been in MLP stuff, and you've done obviously large tournaments in the other leagues as well. It's just what's that been like to be able to move so quickly? I guess when you think of 2022 being when really you started actually even doing it, that's like no time whatsoever. So what's that been like being able to move so quickly in a very fast growing sport?
Um, for me, it's just being able to keep moving forward. I like keep challenging myself. Obviously, Ben doubting me was like a huge, most people would run away and say, okay, I'm never playing pickleball again. And for me, I like to prove the haters wrong. I like to prove people who doubt me wrong. So for me, it's been super fun to see the success. Obviously, the sport is growing so fast. So I want to keep reaching for that next best thing. Being able to play tournaments, winning medals, getting drafted to MLP teams for this year. I'm going to play MLP in Australia. So I think doing it so fast has been amazing, but it's never ending.
Yeah, yeah. And I do have to ask you, have you talked to Ben about that after, now that you're kind of at the level you're at?
Yes. I would say about a few months ago was the first time that he admitted that I was getting good at the sport. So
Well,
it's a
that's
running joke we have between the two of us.
yeah, that's great. That's great. So one of the things that it has moved very quickly, and do you have a favorite moment so far? Because you've done celebrity things, you've done other, you actually spend a lot of time also. You have sponsorships, you have those things as well. Is there a favorite moment so far in what's a short, but I'm sure you kind of fast moving career?
I would probably have to say that MLP has been the overall experience of MLP has just been my favorite.
Yeah.
I always loved being on a team, college tennis team. I always loved playing doubles tennis. So I love being out there with a team, being able to cheer everybody on. It's a more electric environment because you're not only playing for yourself, but you're playing for your team, your owners, you're playing for each other. So I think that's what makes it the most fun. So for me, MLP in general is probably my best memory, but or my biggest, most exciting memory.
Yeah.
But I've also had so many amazing experiences. I've met other professional athletes, I've met other DJs that I've got to play pickleball with. And I think the cool thing about pickleball is it brings everybody together from all walks of life because so many people are obsessed with pickleball. So as soon as somebody mentions pickleball, if you've played it, everybody's face lights up and is like, oh my God, I'm obsessed. Um, so I think I've just had so many incredible opportunities with influential people that many people will never be able to do.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's interesting that's what I'd kind of talk to you about too, is that there's kind of a community piece of pickleball that's different from most sports actually, especially one that can be individual or with just pairs or something like that. But there's something beyond that, and I guess it's hard to explain unless you've been involved in it before. But tell me a bit about that, about what that's like for you at even at your level. I'm sure that that community is still there in a strong way as well.
Oh yeah. I mean, the biggest thing I say, like people, what pickleball has done for my life is it's brought me to new places around the country. And then soon it will be bringing me to places around the world that I would never have dreamed of going or, just book a vacation for.
Mhm.
But also I've met so many new friends. And then the cool thing is that people who aren't at my level, I'm still able to play with them because pickleball is, I say, for all ages, all levels, all demographics, all walks of life. And it brings so many people together. So at a social setting, pickleball is so fun, yet we're all getting outside and doing something active.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, is that you can play with other people and it still be fun at different levels and everything else as well. So tell us about being a pro pickleball player and knowing that you've got you probably have a lot of events. I mean, pros go through events all the time, and it's kind of a continuous cycle. So talk about kind of how that works for you, knowing you probably have a lot of practice you have to do. You have to do all your other things. What is it like for you, and like what's a normal day? What's a normal kind of week like? Because it's structured, I'm sure, around your events.
Yes. So this year has been a little bit of less traveling than last year. I can't say I like it better or worse. It's been great. Both years have been great. But this year, when I'm home, I'm really focusing on my fitness. Nutrition has been a big change for me this year as well. So for me, my day to day, my week to week when I'm home is a drill session every day, 5 days a week, working out 6 days a week, 4 days with the trainer, and another day or two in the gym by myself. And then just making sure I'm getting my nutrition in. I don't really play rec games that much when I'm home. I try and drill 2 to 4 hours a day when I'm home. And then tournaments, it's just making sure if I have a tournament on the weekend, making sure that I'm in the gym preparing, but also making sure that I'm recovering as well before I travel for a tournament.
Hmm.
Um, I have to make sure that I structure my day because I'm not working day to day right now. Pickleball is my job,
Yeah,
that I have that routine when I'm home. But I enjoy the traveling. But when I come home, it's back to work. Otherwise, you can kind of just get lost in the day.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, but traveling has been great, and it's just learning how to make a quick recovery, especially if you're traveling back to back weekends, making sure that you're taking care of your body in between those tournament weeks.
Yeah, yeah. And when you talk about fitness and what you do, like, is it based on like explosiveness stuff? Do you like what kind of fitness do you do that translates into pickleball? And like I think a lot of people would just think of, oh, you just do drilling and stuff like that, but I know a lot of players are doing well beyond that in their fitness in the gym.
Yeah, I think this year a lot more players are realizing that it's not just on court stuff you need to do. You have to be doing the off court stuff. So I've been working with a trainer. I work with a trainer 4 days a week,
Hmm.
and they kind of determine what I'm going to do based on if I have a tournament or if I have a few weeks off before my next tournament. But really, it's anything between heavy weightlifting, movement, explosive. A light mobility day with some stretching and lightweight movements, but it's all kinds of training that you would think for an athlete. But I let my trainers really determine what they want to program into my week just based off of what pickleball I also have on the schedule.
And how much do you have to spend on what you do with your sponsors and things like that? Because I know it is a little different, I'm sure, because at tournaments, there's a fair amount of activity you probably do with the sponsors as well, even at an event. But does it take a lot of time? Like it's and the reason I ask, I think of we just have actually while we're talking now, the person that we have up on our most recent podcast is a race car driver, and she has to spend a lot of time with her sponsor stuff outside of when she does events. And I'm just wondering, like, what's that like for you? Do you have to do a lot of work on sponsorships pieces outside of your regular kind of events?
No, I think pickleball is a little different. As long as you are, putting your sponsors into your social media and making sure that you're making people aware of it. I think that's the biggest thing. There's not really bigger sponsors are starting to come into pickleball. So it's making sure that you're spending time, getting some of that footage, but I don't have as much time that I have to like go to events with my sponsors. I think some of these
Yeah.
sponsors that are in pickleball right now try and coordinate with tournaments.
Hmm.
So if they're at a tournament and you're at the same tournament, then you're able to do things together. But it's just making sure that you're filming some videos on my own at home
Yeah.
about the products that I use or anything that I use for a sponsor that they could also use on their platform.
Yeah, yeah. And from a goal setting standpoint, when you yeah, are you very driven by kind of what you want to do from that end? Like, are you a write down your goals kind of person, or how do you approach that yourself?
I definitely have been writing down goals this year. Some things have changed for me this year a little bit. I started this year off actually with 75 hard. So basically my biggest thing was to rein in my fitness, my nutrition. I've pretty much given up drinking alcohol.
Mhm.
Um, and then for pickleball, the 75 hard has helped me with my journey as well, making sure that I'm journaling, that I'm reading self-help books, really focusing on the things that I want to accomplish this year, which for me in pickleball is win medals, but also have experiences that get to take me to new places, meet new people. I love doing celebrity events, celebrity tournaments, things like that. So
Yeah.
for me, it's just being able to get my foot in the door and meet the right people to gain these new experiences.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's I mean, I wonder kind of how does that work with Western Vipers, and maybe just explain a little bit about that for people who maybe don't kind of know exactly how it all works and all that kind of stuff. But tell us a little bit about that and your role there.
Yeah, the Western Vipers. This kind of came overnight for me. I
Mhm.
told my agent that I was like, okay, why don't I get drafted to go play in Australia? I'm not playing MLP here in the States this year.
Mhm.
So I said, what if I go to Australia? And he said, okay, let's see if we can do it. And I got drafted to play MLP in Australia. I am one of 12 international players that are even eligible to get drafted to play in Australia.
Mhm.
Um, and so I will fly over this year to play in team events in Australia with players from all over the entire world. We will play in the Gold Coast, we'll play in Vietnam, and then we'll go back to Melbourne in Australia. So for me, it's obviously the money here in the States is way more, but for me, it's like gaining an experience to go to places that I would didn't think I'd ever really be able to go to.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's you get to get exposed to things you never normally would. So that's it's not all about kind of how much you take home. That's actually a bigger piece out of it too, right? So.
Absolutely.
Um, and how about just kind of balancing the other stuff? And that might be a good example, is because you could very easily just kind of be drilled into just doing pickleball and not being able to see all the things you'd want to see and meet all the people you want to meet. So how do you make sure you balance those things when you're in an environment like that, knowing you're professional and you have to do what you do, but also wanting to make sure you gain the experiences you want as well?
I think just the biggest thing is being able to have a team behind you that you're able to really see the bigger picture of things that I want to accomplish, things that I want to do, and have a team that is also on board with what I want to do. So for me, it's my agent, my parents, and saying like, okay, I want to play these tournaments. Obviously, I want to win money here and gain more sponsors. But for me, I also want to grow a following on Instagram. I also want to be able to take these experiences and travel the world, teach in different places around the world. For me, it's not just about being here in the States. And then I think also I want to get involved in tournaments, small money ball tournaments with professional um, athletes or influencers or music DJs, things that I'm also interested in. So it's just being able to set a goal, but have a team behind me that supports the decisions that I am making.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very cool approach to it. And do you have I know because you've been in sports and in racket sports for a long time. So I'm sure you've had mentors as you've went along, and then also in the transition into pickleball. Are there people that you kind of look to that, wow, I would really like to kind of mimic that at some point, or do you just kind of take bits and pieces away from different people? How do you approach that?
I really take bits and pieces away from different people that I like to, that I look up to or that I think are successful, and I try and just pick their brain about different things and learn from everybody. But I actually think the biggest thing for me, it biggest influential person for me is really my mom and my grandma. Because one, they're super supportive of everything that I do, but they're also very, very hardworking. So I think that's the thing. I, take different pieces of knowledge from influential or successful people in my life, and then I bring it back to, okay, I have to put in the work because the only person that can do it is me.
Hmm.
I put in the work, everything will come together.
Very cool. Um, and for the upcoming year, then, I mean, when you're going over there, do you have specific things you want to accomplish when you head, and when do you head over to Australia? It's soon, is it not?
I head over in 1 month.
Okay, yeah, so not too far away. And then when
No.
you're over there, do you have, hey, I want to do this. You did mention that you want to win tournaments and things like that, obviously, but do you have kind of a couple of big things you'd like to make sure you accomplish or get to do while you're there?
For me, I think basically for pickleball, obviously I would want to win. There's many opportunities to win MLP. There's opportunities to win some tournaments over there. But also I would love to teach pickleball, some camps over there in different places, even in like Thailand or Australia. But I'm going to Australia, so the Great Barrier Reef is on my bucket list. So I want to dive the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Um, So, one of the things that we ask everybody that comes on is kind of a couple of takeaways, and I'm sure people have had a lot of that, and actually are probably pretty interested in being able to follow you over the next little while too, because that's one thing that you're quite good at is building community as well around your what you're doing. But maybe just kind of, do you have a couple of tips where a lot of people listening they're both entrepreneurs, they're athletes, or things like that, and sometimes being able to balance things as much as possible while still feeling successful in whatever their key thing is. For you, it's pickleball. Other people might be their business, whatever it is. Do you have a couple of tips on how do you approach balancing those when it is a big chunk of your life trying to succeed in a specific profession or what you do as well?
I think the biggest thing for me is for balance is making sure that you set a schedule, write things down on your calendar, set a time that you are going to allot time for yourself if you want to work out. Then set your meeting times if it's for work, or for me, it's my drilling sessions for pickleball. It's my time in the gym with the trainer. And then just making sure that you're scheduling out your day and you're not just uh, saying it's a free for all, because right, if it's a free for all, then we don't get things done. If you put things on a schedule, you write things down, you are holding yourself accountable to what you want to accomplish. So I think that was the biggest takeaway for me also with 75 hard this year. There were things I had to get done in the day. If I didn't do it in the day, I was tired at night, and I got it done because I had to check it off a list. But when I wrote it in my calendar, it was like, okay, don't let yourself down because you wrote it down. You're going to do it. I think that's my biggest takeaway.
Yeah, yeah, it's that kind of being intentional. Otherwise, as you mentioned, I think earlier, is that time can just slip away and it doesn't happen. So it is a way to kind of make sure that you stay kind of accountable and intentional in what you do. So, um,
Yes.
So for the next little while, if I mean, people are probably excited about kind of seeing what happens with you over the next, especially as you head into your kind of your travels and what you do from that end. What are some of the best ways to connect with you and follow what's going to happen over the next little while, Shelby?
For me, the biggest way to follow along on any of my journey is on Instagram, Shelby Bates 31. I'm super active on there. I like to post my life out there for everyone to see, as much or as little as everyone wants to see. But I think the cool thing will be when I take it over to Australia.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you didn't get that, we'll put it right in the show notes. So if you are listening, then click through and follow what Shelby's doing. I mean, she has some great content and great stuff if you're interested in pickleball too, obviously. But definitely make sure you do that. If you haven't hit subscribe on the podcast, do that now. We have great people every week, just like Shelby. But again, busy times and great that you were able to spend some time with us today, Shelby. Really appreciate it.
So glad I was able to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right. And to everybody else, we will talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.